I tell you another area where this is disingenuous. This idea of Steve Kerr holds the power, he's got the leverage, but he just doesn't want to come back. He's done coaching the Warriors. Whatever's leading to that opinion, what happened to everything for Steph? And why does that only matter in the minds of, and I guess I could just say all of us, why does that only matter in the form of teammates? That's the way we usually talk about it.
Right.
Teammates.
But you can't force the guy to coach if he doesn't want to coach.
Of course not. But I don't again, now I'm going to go to the fact that you said that you still love coaching. You said that you still want this job. If I put my arms on Draymond and Steph Curry's shoulders and I say, I don't know what's going to happen, that's not suggesting, hey, I'm just not really happy doing this anymore. Like, there's nothing he's ever said or done that suggests that, right?
Right.
Okay. So if everything for Steph, if the organization has sort of committed to this, which is we want to position Steph in the best way possible, and it doesn't mean like Steph's in charge, but if we want to surround him with the best possible chances because he's our guy, we owe him that, he's still effective. We talk about that in terms of teammates and who they can acquire. Doesn't the coach matter too? I mean,
absolutely.
I just don't understand who the hell's going to, if this roster looks anything like this, I have no idea who's coaching this team next year that actually has a chance at success.
Probably not a first-time NBA coach, Todd Golden, who I think will be a good coach someday. But if you're going to have this roster with this many veterans, and you probably won't have all the same guys, but if you have Porzingis and Horford and Draymond and Jimmy and Steph, you're going to need somebody to come in with experience and a certain level of gravitas to replace Steve Kerr, and that might not be what the organization wants. So if Steve Kerr decides that he doesn't want to coach anymore, you might see a younger coach brought in, and you might see some sort of a roster overhaul because that's where a lot of these leagues go now, like NFL, younger coaches, the NBA, younger coaches. And so if you have an older team, can you bring in like a 35-year-old head coach?
I'm not like against any characteristic. I don't know who this person is. There's so many intricate dynamics to what's going on with the Golden State Warriors right now. I got to think anybody who gets this job, their pants are going to be around their ankles on opening night. I just like Steph and Draymond.
It depends who you bring in. Like,
what?
You could bring in somebody who's a veteran. And
okay.
Steiny earlier was joking around, I think, when he said Scott Skiles. Well, and, somebody like that, somebody who is, in their 50s or in their 60s. But the other piece is, if you do replace Steve Kerr, don't you want to have somebody who's really good at development? Because you're probably going to have a young team here pretty soon.
I don't know. I've never, it's like I don't even know how to assess that on a head coach. I've never looked at development as like just the head coach's job. That's an organizational job. For the most part, development with these teams is happening away from the head coach, unless that team is just god-awful. But outside of that, development, like Guy Santos developed. Where did he develop? It wasn't on the floor with the Warriors until he suddenly could come play. But there's the G League, there's the end of the bench, there's practices, there's a whole team. There's a developmental squad with these basketball teams. So
I guess it's more about the development of the team as opposed to the individual. Okay. And I'm thinking about Jordy Fernandez and the Brooklyn Nets, who he was hired in 2024. And they've had back-to-back horrific seasons, and he just got an extension because they like what he's doing to develop a young team, and they're trying to put the pieces together. So if the Warriors are going to go that direction, then you want to find a younger coach who you're going to give some time to go out there and build this thing back up.
And again, I without being against anything you're saying, where the hell does Steph Curry fit into all that?
Exactly.
At age 38 through 40.
That's why, for me,
I don't understand.
It's really a curious one because if Steve decides to leave and you want to bring in somebody who can develop a team over a long period of time, that's not going to probably work for Draymond and Steph. So do you want to bring in like a stopgap or elevate Terry Stotts or Jerry Stackhouse? I don't know.
I mean, does the name Billy Donovan do anything for you?
Nah, not really.
He just left the Bulls job. He left it. on his own accord.
Well, it's because they brought in new management, and so the writing was probably on the wall.
Maybe. They tried to keep him. The new management wanted him to stay.
North Carolina tried to get him. He was offered that job.
He said, no thanks. And then, did you see what Colin Cowherd quote tweeted on top of the breaking news?
No, didn't see it.
Quote, this is Shams breaks. Billy Donovan's leaving. Hour later, Colin writes, told ya, he's moving to warmer and greener, bluer pastures.
Okay.
Translate.
Well, greener would be Draymond Green, and bluer would be the color of the Golden State Warriors.
Unless they wear any of their 27 alternate jerseys.
Yeah, and he should have added, hurry up and get there.
And warmer. This is warmer than Chicago.
At times, yeah. Not yesterday.
The suggestion is that Billy is leaving because he's already got another gig.
Okay, and if that gig is here, then that would be Steve Kerr go bye-bye, and Billy Donovan's the guy who you bring in.
I mean, you and I, we're always in lockstep on this. Whatever the hell's going on, it's a hell of a lot further down the road than we know.
For sure. Yeah.
So if Steve Kerr is leaving, they know. They made this meeting that's going to happen in the next week to 10 days or whatever. Maybe that meeting is about, like, can we save this? Do we want to save this? But maybe this is also just about, let's get together and let's coordinate the PR of this departure. Maybe.
We're going to find out. And, just the moment after the loss when he grabs Steph and Draymond and they have that three-way hug and the conversation, that to me was the first real, moment of like,
no question.
Oh no. I mean, he might actually be leaving.
Oh, no.
That's right.
I think that's how Steph and Draymond took it, which is wild to me. The cynic in me, that's the other thing that's like back of my neck standing up. Well, Steph and Draymond, again, last week, Draymond's on ESPN being like, laughable. Another coach coaching us next year? What are we talking about here? That person is Steve Kerr. And then he goes on all the things that he loves about Steve Kerr. And then you mean to tell me that then that game happens and Steve just walks over to them for the first time, puts his arms on their shoulders and is like, KD, I'm out. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Nobody discussed this at all in the NBA where everything like that is orchestrated?
Right, but Steve Kerr can be private about it.
Sure.
And, as much as he reveals a lot to us, there are things, one of the things he hates the most is when there are leaks. So he probably, if he's deciding to leave, he probably has had conversations with his family, and that's it.
Yeah, but see, that's why, I mean, Steph and Draymond, wouldn't he treat them like family? That's what I mean. I don't mean tell us. I don't even mean tell Joe. But Steph and Draymond were flat-footed? That's surprising to me.
That would be surprising. And, it's also possible that Steve Kerr reached that decision recently as the year going on and, Steph is out and you're losing all these games and you're going to be in the play-in and, Willard and Dibbs are peppering you every week with questions. Maybe you get to a spot where you have the clarity and you decide, a week ago, you know what, this is going to be the choice.
Oh, yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Steve.
It's possible.
650, I see you. I think Cowherd meant Donovan was going to get paid greener and go back to Florida, bluer and warmer, because Golden State will be getting Todd Golden. Okay, Chandler Parsons today on FanDuel TV.
That whole talk yesterday, reports about Todd Golden from University of Florida going there.
I saw that.
1,000% not true. He ain't going anywhere.
Put your name on it, Chandler.
Right? This is an anonymous source, or this, what is it? Anonymous sources. He ain't going anywhere. So enough with that.
So stop it.
Bogus.
We don't respect anonymous.
Yeah, with your,
you know that.
Your bogus reports. Sources say. Well, I say he's going back to Florida. How about that?
Chandler Parsons went to Florida. Chandler called Todd Golden yesterday and went, Coach, what are we looking at? I'm not going anywhere. And about 2 hours ago, Florida's best player, who was expected to be a first-round draft pick, said, peace to the NBA draft. Right. I'm going back to Florida. And one of the things he said in his quote was, I can't wait to stay with my guys and play for Coach Golden.
Right.
It's not Todd Golden.
It's not
Todd Golden.
He got an extension last May. He got a 6-year extension for $40.5 million. So Golden's making some good money. It's not quite $7 million a year, and you'd make more in the NBA unless you work for Portland. So I guess, you want to stay there and you want to give it a couple more goes to try to win the Natty, especially now that you can just flat out pay guys and you can pluck guys from all over the place.
Yep. You're seeing this is now at least 2 first-round draft picks, like lockdown first-round draft picks who are like, no thanks. No thanks.
Right.
College is comfier now.
And you get to play.
Right.
Like, you're not going to be coming off the bench and you won't get to pick your destination. If you're taking number 12 by whomever, that's who you play for now.
Ask almost any pro and they'll college is more fun, And if they're getting paid millions of dollars and they know that you can take out an insurance policy on injury and that the NBA will be there, it's a consideration now.
No doubt. What did DeBonsa get this year? $7 million from BYU, I think?
I have no idea.
I think that was the number.
A lot of dough.
And they knew it was going to be a one and done. And so that's why he went to BYU, because he got, I think, 7 M's, as Goo would say. And now you're going to go maybe number 1 overall in the draft, and you're going to get another big payday.
How old is Todd Golden? Todd Golden he's 40. He's a man.
Yep.
He's 40. He's only 40. This is the way I sort of look at that stuff. I don't know if everybody does, but to me, when you're a college coach and the pros come calling, when you go to the pros, that's the beginning of the end. That's the highest you can go. But it's also where there's the most pressure and probably more turnover. At the highest of levels, as Steve Kerr said last week, all of these jobs have an expiration date.
Right.
And a decade in an NBA job is a lifetime. So if I'm 40, do I want to go to the pros where even if things go epically, that'll take me to maybe when I'm 48, maybe 50? Or do you want to do when you're good and it's a year and a half off of a national title?
Yeah.
You have ultimate job security, and the opposite is true. Go to the NBA. Go to the NBA
Eventually.
in 5 or 7 years.
Yeah, and he got that 6-year extension for $40 million, so he's all set up for as long as he wants to be and be there. And if you come here, that's a tough job because the end is near. So even if Kerr was out and Golden came in, he's 40 years old, and you've got the last gasp of Steph and Draymond, and then what? You're looking at a rebuild, and there's no portal, and there's no NIL, and you're down there in Gainesville, and it's a pretty cushy thing, and you are the big man on campus because you won the Natty, and you got guys, whoever you want, you pretty much can have. You compete with, the other big boys, but you can just stack your squad and pile up the wins.
Gainesville. Everybody's focused on the football team. You're over here winning natties, living in small town USA. San Francisco, California comes calling with a fan base that thinks you suck if you don't win a championship every other year. And oh, by the way, upon arrival, hey, Steph's got about 18 months left. Don't screw it up.
That's right.
Let's go, team on 3.
Exactly.
Yo, I'm good. We'll get there some other time. You're trying to get in there
and do the pep talk, and Draymond looks over and says, Coach, I don't know if you knew this, but I can't get up for Orlando on a Tuesday.
Plus, I run this show.
Right.
Stand down. Your office is over there. I'll do the talk.
Seriously. Hold on a sec, Todd.
Yeah. Todd.
Seriously.
I talk.
That's right. You listen.
Here's a whistle. Put it in your mouth.
I wonder how this is going to go. Monty Poole saying 15% chance that Steve Kerr comes back, and I'm just fascinated by what that means. It's either you find an experienced guy and you just hope for the best for the next couple of years, or you completely change a lot about your team.
You ever have a teenager try to tell you a story?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
That's what this feels like to me, and that's why I'm bothered by it. It's not about whether Steve can do whatever he wants. The Warriors can do whatever they want. You know what I mean? Steph Curry's going to keep playing basketball. We're going to keep doing the show. Everything's going to be wonderful here in San Francisco, California, USA, planet Earth. Everything's like, we're good here. So this is not about that. We love talking to Steve every single week, and Steve is one of the best interviewees I have ever worked alongside in my entire career. That is a fact. But you know what? Even in retirement, I bet Steve still come on the show here and there or whatever he does. Like, I'm not worried about that. I just feel like I'm being told a story by a teenager. Like, there's too many holes here. I don't all I want is for it to make sense. But your story about why there are empty beer cans in my recycler that you don't know anything about while I was out of town for the weekend. Somebody next door must have used it, Dad, for overflow.
That's right, yeah. You're not buying it.
This doesn't make sense. And so all I'm saying is there has got to be more going on here, and I think it's relational. It has to be Steve v. somebody front office. I don't know if it's Joe. I don't know if it's Mike. I don't think it's Mike. And could it be door number 3? You know what I mean? Could it be somebody else with the last name Lacob?
It's possible.
I don't even know what kind of power those guys have, but something does not make sense here.
Well, it will. And we may not officially know what the disconnect was if Steve Kerr leaves the job. It might be as easy as, he's just burnt out. And he talked in the Monty Poole piece about, alignment back in the start of the year. Remember all the talk about alignment? And he said he's very aligned with Joe Lacob and with Mike Dunleavy. That was at the start of this season. So maybe the alignment isn't what it used to be, because now you go through a year like this and the owner who's competitive is probably very frustrated, and the GM who gets to pick in the lottery for the first time, most likely, he's probably thinking about, getting younger and more athletic. And that's what Steve said, too, in this piece. He said, the league now is younger and faster and more athletic, and the Warriors just aren't that.
But so what's wrong with that? What does that have to do with whether or not Steve Kerr can coach it?
Because the team's not good enough. And so
what?
So maybe he doesn't want to go down with the ship.
I'll never leave Steph Curry.
Right.
That's what you said.
Sure. And Mike Dunleavy said they're not going to trade Jordan Poole.
Yeah, but,
and then they traded Jordan Poole.
But that's completely different. That's completely different. That's protecting.
Those are words that, Draymond Green was not dangled at the trade deadline. Hey, Draymond.
Right.
I was dangled.
Listen, I'm not. I understand. I'm a big boy here. I know we get lied to, but it's always in an effort to protect the asset or to protect the organization or whatever. Like, you're playing possum on that one. This is just Steve talking about himself. He doesn't need to do that. You know what I mean? If Steve wanted to go, just be like, yeah, I feel like going. I think everyone would be like, thanks, coach. He's the greatest coach in the history of the Warriors. It's not even close. It's not even an argument. There's nothing to be said here. And those of you who live your lives on social media, who hate Steve Kerr and think he's an awful coach and the game has passed him by, then you'll be happy. Great. There's not who's going to be mad if Steve goes? Who?
Who's going to be mad?
Who?
Probably Steph Curry.
Well, but you're right.
And Draymond.
All the more reason then to not go. But there's nobody that would be what is being protected by Steve feeling forced, in other words, to say something like, I'll never leave Steph Curry, or I still love coaching, or all the things that he said. And even he has said, I hope that I'll be back. Well, you don't have to hope if you're the one who holds if you got the baton.
But
just
things can change. And, I don't know if it changes in a heartbeat, but I'm looking at a clip from the Dan Patrick Show back in February of this year, and he was saying, I'd never leave Steph Curry. So as recently as February, he was saying that he'd never leave Steph Curry, and now he might be on the cusp of leaving Steph Curry.
As recently as February?
I'm looking at a video from the Dan Patrick Show.
How about as recently as Friday?
I don't want to walk away from Steph. I'm definitely not going and coaching somewhere else next year, in the NBA. I'm just, I would never walk away from Steph, but all this stuff has to be aligned and right. And so those are all discussions that we'll have. That's what I said from the beginning of the season. I felt great coming into this year. I thought we had a real chance, with Jimmy and Moses going down. Obviously it took us off track, but we have to account for all of that stuff. And, this is just a phenomenal organization, and Joe is a great owner. Mike is a wonderful GM, and I'm lucky to work with them. And like I said, we'll all put our heads together next couple weeks.
That's Friday night.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I stand where I stand.
There has to be alignment, is what he said.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that.
So maybe
what
there's not alignment. That means the front office, the ownership, and the coach, they all have to have the same idea about everything. How are we going to build this roster? How do we want to run our offense? Who do we want to have around? Et cetera, et cetera. And when you have a year like that, 37-45, with a couple guys in catastrophic injuries, and you're an old team getting older, maybe the front office doesn't want to go down that road anymore, and Steve does.
Okay, so that's fair. Let's talk about that for just a sec. The idea that, like, we should adjust kind of the way we're doing. We need to get a little younger and longer. You think Steve is like, I hate youth and length?
No.
Okay, you think he could coach youth and length?
Yes, but I mean, I don't know if you can go out and just find wings.
Of course not.
Anthony Slater with a great cut today with Steiny and Goo talking about, what do they need in the draft and in general? And he's like, they need wings.
Yes.
They have no wings.
But that's not, Steve's not allergic to that. So if the organization was like, that's what we want to do, Steve would be like, well, I'm not staying here if you're bringing in somebody who hasn't turned 34. Won't do it. Like that's not what's happening.
No, but maybe what's happening is the franchise, the front office has a desire to trade Draymond Green.
Okay.
They didn't do it at the deadline, but maybe now with his $27 million player opt, maybe now is the time that they, want to pursue that.
That feels warmer to me.
They traded Klay Thompson, remember?
Yeah, but each of these has their own unique circumstances.
They do. And Steiny was really looking at the tunnel interaction when Draymond got ejected and he's walked right by and Dunleavy didn't even look at him. That might be reading too much into it, but the reality is that's $27 million. And if Steve wants it to be Steph, Draymond, and Steve, and the front office wants to trade Draymond Green, then Steve might just say, I'm out.
That feels warmer to me because, again, if Steve's point is, I'm never going to leave Steph, well, the front office doesn't want to leave Steph either. So, okay, we're aligned there.
Yeah.
I've never heard him say, I'll never leave Draymond.
Right.
I mean, is that the linchpin to all this?
If he doesn't agree with a potential Draymond Green trade in the offseason, then that could be enough to send him packing.